Hey, thank you for watching Amy Hill. I'm here with Mr. Wood, and we are going to get to know him a little better. I know he's new to South Carolina. Thank you for having me, for letting me interview you.
Sure.
So there is a lot of new GOP delegates and members this year.
It's good
They've
news.
got an overwhelming. Yes, it is. It's good that there's a lot of people willing to participate and want to participate now. But so briefly for our audience, give a quick bio. What's your political background, beliefs, and aspirations for South Carolina?
That's a lot of questions. Let me give you my background. I'm a lawyer.
Right.
I've been practicing law almost 44 years. The first half of my career was I did a lot of medical work, medical negligence work, and since 1996 I've focused largely on First Amendment issues, defamation, reputation, and I've handled a couple of fairly significant fraud cases. So I'm a trial lawyer. I love it. A little bit tired of some of the games lawyers play, but I've had a good career, some great clients, and I moved to South Carolina in February of this year after I purchased some property last year. I spent some time at it in Beaufort County. I love the land. I got to know the people. I love the people, and I decided in February that I was going to move to South Carolina and make it my official residence, so I did. I still have a home in Atlanta, a lake home. I still love Georgia. I was born in North Carolina. So North Carolina to Georgia to South Carolina, I think I'm a well-rounded Southerner. How about that?
Well-rounded Southern boy. So this is two-part. Why are you running for the SC GOP state chair, and what would you like to accomplish if elected?
I had a group of individuals that approached me after I had said on social media that I felt like the citizens of our country needed to get involved in government, in politics, to rebuild it because it was broken. We learned that in November of 2020. So I urged people to get involved, and all of a sudden I had some people come and say, hey, you said get involved, we want to get you involved, would you run for chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party? And I thought, well, what have I gotten myself into? But I said for others to do it. I felt like I was a man of principle, and am, and I said, well, if I've asked people to do it, then I've got to step up to the plate and do it.
Lead by example.
I didn't come over here to get involved in politics. I've avoided politics all my life. I'm 68 years old. I've taken a greater interest since November because of the things I saw going on in Georgia that almost are identical to things going on in South Carolina and the establishment of the party. While I've been an astute observer of politics, particularly presidential politics, this is the first time I've ever somehow gotten myself involved in politics. So I did it to try to represent the people. I didn't come with an agenda. I think that the chairman of the party should represent what the people want done, not what the chairman or his buddies want done. And from what I've learned, the problem with the South Carolina Republican Party is that there's a group of people at the top that run it for their interest, their money, their friends, and they're not listening to the people. So I'd like to be a chairman that listens to the people and advocates what the people want done with their party. I want to make the party better again, make it better.
Understood, yes. So do you have any, and I know almost what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to let you tell the new folks, do you have any experience in business and financial accountability and specifically fundraising? Because as you know, GOP, there is a fundraising component to that.
I have, with my 44 years of law practice, I believe I have had my own law firm, a small business, for a little over 30 years. So I've got 30 years experience running a small business. I had to meet payrolls. There were some years where I always met my payroll. I was proud of that. Some years I met my payroll, but I didn't get paid. But I know about the burdens that are placed on small businesses in terms of government, and I know how to make a profit. So I've got, I believe, a lot of experience in business, and And I think small business, medium-sized business, is where we need to be emphasizing our efforts in the future, because we've got to rebuild the middle class in our country. That's the heart and soul of our country. It should be the heart and soul of our Republican Party. So I think I'm well equipped from an experience standpoint to help in that regard. I'll understand the problems of the small and moderate business person.
Yes, definitely.
Now, there's one other part to that. Business and what else?
And fundraising.
Fundraising. Well, what do you know? I founded a 501c4 nonprofit foundation this past summer, 2020, called #FightBack Foundation. In the summer of last year, I saw what I thought was a color revolution, where we were not really going to have an election, but we were going to have an effort to overthrow our government like a third world country revolution. I was right. So I founded Fight Back in the summer to stand essentially for the mission that we wanted to defend our Constitution, because I thought we were going to probably get close to losing it, and we have almost, haven't we? And I wanted Fight Back to be there in the future to advocate to never let our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, our Constitution, and our constitutional rights ever be threatened again. So as part of that, I've obviously been engaged in fundraising. We raised funds for the criminal defense of Kyle Rittenhouse, $2.5 million, I believe. We've raised money to fight the election fraud. We've raised money to fight back some of the vindictive type agenda-driven grievances against lawyers, including myself, my state bars. So I've got experience there. I also have a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation called Allie's Place, i.e. a place for all, where I have not started actively raising money, but I intend to, because that's going to build a shelter for dogs. I want rescue dogs to be fat and happy and loved, and not the pitiful characters we see on TV where people are trying to make money on them. I want to also build a chapel on one of my properties. So I want Allie's Place, i.e. a place for all, for puppies. The Tomotley Chapel, a place for all, is another one of my goals, and I'll be raising money for that. So I don't like to ask people for money. I've always been, I think my friends and people I've worked with will tell you, I'm a giver, not a taker. But I felt like people wanted to be involved in what's happening in our country, and I think I've shown with Fight Back that they do want to give for the right reasons to the right people. I don't take any money myself, except for expenses, which are legitimate. And I believe that's going to help me be a better fundraiser for Allie's Place when I go to raise money for the dogs and for the chapel. And I also hope incorporated part of that is a camp on one of my properties for kids. I think there'll be a lot of kids in the future that are not going to have parents. And so I can set up a camp, day camp, 2-week camp, something that they can do without paying for it, to learn how to hunt and fish and ride a horse, take care of a dog, farm, and love God. Then I want to do that as part of Allie's Place, the 501c3. So all of those things are part of the vision that I have for my property, which I believe will make Beaufort County and the city of Yemassee better. I want to try to make the South Carolina Republican Party better. That'll make the state of South Carolina better. And South Carolina is a leader in this country. It always has been. South Carolina, I believe, will lead the way to make America better. So I'm enthusiastic about being in South Carolina, and I'm here to help. I'm not here to harm the party or harm the people. I love the people. I think I'm a positive, and I'm not a carpetbagger.
That would be positive.
Do you hear that, Drew?
Oh, no. So having to do with the creed, and we know what the creed says, but does it inspire you? And if so, how would it inspire you?
Well, the creed, as I understand it, I haven't memorized it.
I don't think any of us have.
Listen, that's why I give it out at each meeting.
Yeah.
But you can read it and you know what it is. It's essentially affirming our basic fundamental beliefs and rights as Americans. So what I'm big on is I've been big on the Constitution all my life. I'm a student and a lawyer in First Amendment and our Bill of Rights. And that's why one of the reasons I'm fighting for Fight Back is because I see our constitutional rights being threatened. But the creed essentially talks about what I've learned firsthand. America is a land of opportunity. My background, I was 16 years old, didn't have a dime in my pocket. My mother went to the morgue, my dad went to prison. But I made it because I was an American. America gave me the opportunity. Same boy at 16, any other country in the world wouldn't have made it. So I love America. The creed of the Republicans is consistent with the way I feel about America. I love freedom. I love the fresh air of liberty. And I think that's what that creed is saying to you. Live free.
Yeah.
Have your rights. They're given by God, not government.
That is true. That is true. So,
excuse me, I'm a little hoarse from having my speech earlier
I
today.
know you were out there a very long time in the
So
sun.
I love the people.
Yes. Would you like to change anything about the state GOP's organization or how it's currently ran?
Well, I think it's run from the top down. It needs to be run from the bottom up. So I think you need to reverse it. You need the people in charge of the party, not the elite. I think that you have to look through what they're trying to do now is to come up with a very complicated convention, which I think is meant to cheat. I looked at the bylaws. You can't hardly understand them, and I'm a lawyer. I'd simplify the rules of the party. When you complicate things, it's hard to understand. If it's hard to understand, it's hard to know what to do. So the rules of the party themselves need to be simplified greatly. You don't need all these nonsensical rules to run a meeting, to make decisions, and to do business. Beyond that, I feel like there's a lot of interlocking relationships that have developed over years. I'm concerned about the nature of some of those relationships, where the money's coming from, where the money's going. I'd like to see the party focus on its monies when needed to be spent in South Carolina with South Carolina vendors. I don't like the fact that Lindsey Graham's got $102 million in a PAC. I don't believe the campaigns are that expensive. I think it's a racket. I think it involves nefarious activities. And I think that over time you're going to find that this money changing that goes on in the Republican Party and other parties. The Democrats do it too. I'm not singling out the Republicans. They're both guilty. They're corrupt. The love of money is the root of all evil. If people start following the money, they're going to find the evil, and there's evil in South Carolina. I'm very concerned about child sex trafficking and pedophilia. And I intend at least to urge that to the members of the party as something that interests me. If they're as interested in it as I am, I'm going to fight to get rid of it and clean up this state and save those children.
I would like to see that done as well. I'm a grandmother of 6 with 7
You're a grandmother?
Yes, I have 6 grandkids with one in the oven.
Well, I'm a grandfather, but I look older than you do.
Not by much, I promise. So what are your top conservative legislation priorities, and that might be one, and how do you envision working with the state legislature to push more conservative agenda for South Carolina?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know how to do all of this, but I'm a quick study. You can look at my legal career and know that I can take on a new case, new law, new facts. I can dig in, I can understand it. And I'm an advocate. I view my role as being more of an advocate for what the people in the party want. And there'll be good, competent people that will do the administrative nuts and bolts. But I can tell you now that it bothers me that South Carolina has the most progressive / liberal Republican legislature in the country. What? South Carolina is rock solid conservative. Why do we have a legislature that is progressive, the most progressive liberal leaning in the country? Something's wrong. I think you need to push the legislation to have closed primaries. It's like a border. If you don't have a wall, you don't have a country. If you don't have closed primaries where Republicans vote for Republicans and Democrats for Democrats, you don't have a political party. So I would push for closed primaries. There's a lot of other issues that I personally would fight for if the party wanted me to, but it's not my agenda that I'll be pushing. It'll be the agenda of the members of the party. I know there are issues before the state legislature. I believe that Roe versus Wade is unconstitutional. I believe life begins at conception, or as the Bible would say, creation. The Constitution is based on God's law. That's what the founders said. God's law means God's law. Roe versus Wade is unconstitutional. That's a legal perspective. I think I'm right. It's also a spiritual perspective. I love God. I'm unashamedly a person who can tell you that. I think we need God back in government. We need God back in schools. We need God back, more of an emphasis in our daily lives. So God-fearing people need to be in government because they will not lie, they will not cheat, they will not steal. So we need to get more citizens involved as citizen statesmen. Go up, serve a couple terms, come back and live in your life. Judges ought to be elected and serve a couple terms and then go back and be lawyers. There's no school for judges. We got people that have get in office, stay in office, and they're there for themselves and their friends, and they're not there for the people. So in terms of legislation, there's a lot of things that I would like to see done, but I'm just one member of the party. It won't be my agenda, it'll be the agenda of the people of the party. If there's a specific issue, I know there's issues about, I think South Carolina ought to get away with income tax. I don't think we need it. I think you can do it in a consumption tax. I think South Carolina ought to rework its public school system and put the public school system back under the control of the local communities. You don't need all this government telling you how to teach your kids. And as we found in the last 2 decades, teaching our kids things that we didn't know they were teaching. They shouldn't have been taught. The community, we've got to get back to living locally, where people have more control over their lives. We fall into the syndrome where government controls us. We've got to flip that around, and we've got to know that we control our own lives, just like the creed says, live free. And we tell government what to do. We need government for national defense. We need government to regulate our monetary system. What else do we need government for?
They were originally created to govern interstate commerce and the military.
That's essentially finances and military. But what's happened over time is government has gotten so big that people have begun to believe that government tells us what to do. Government doesn't tell us what to do. We tell government what to do. We founded the country based on a constitution that was very restrictive. The last thing we wanted was another King George. And what have we gotten in our government? Another King George. We got to flip that around.
So that's a big question that's on everybody's minds. The state GOP party as a whole has seen quite a bit of division this year. So if you were elected, how would you bring the party together, specifically to move forward?
Well, you heard me say that I wanted to make the South Carolina Republican Party better. But the truth is, you can't begin to look forward and make it better until you identify the problems that exist and fix them. What I've seen, and I saw this in Georgia, what I've seen in the Republican Party in South Carolina is that the division is not being created by someone like me coming in to try to be a participant. It's created because you have a ruling establishment, an elite establishment, that did not fight for Donald Trump. They did not fight to have the election audited. I know South Carolina says that Trump won. I think we've got to have an audit of this election in South Carolina for November of 2020. I think you're going to find that Trump won by more like 17 points than 7. I think you're going to find fraud in your down ballot races. The ES&S system needs to be discarded. You need to have voter ID, paper ballots, fingerprint confirmation and verification. Keep it simple. Computers are only allowing people to do one thing: cheat. 12-year-old can hack a computer. Computer hackers can do a lot of things with cell phones, internet lines. You've got to have a vote that has integrity. So get rid of the ES&S systems. Go back to a simple, verifiable vote. If you don't have voter integrity, you don't have the rule of law. It's the most important thing we do is to vote. So I think the South Carolina Republican Party is living in the wrong era. And I think they're trying to live like the old Republicans, and they've forgotten that the Republican Party is now made up of the middle class. Hillary calls us the deplorables. I don't think Drew McKissick was very complimentary of the bikers for Trump. The bikers for Trump noses at it. We need to stop that and realize that we're all equal. We're all conservatives. We all love Trump and what he stands for. So the party can fix itself when the leadership embraces what the people want. They want an investigation and a restoration of the November 2020 vote. If the people ruling it are not going to give that to them, there's going to be division. In that type of thing, you've either got to find a compromise, or the people that are ruling have got to go find another party. Trump has said he did not want a third party, but I believe that President Trump wants a reformed Republican Party where the rhinos, Republican in name only, are out of power and the people are back into power. That's what I stand for. I think that's what Donald Trump stands for. You fix that problem, you fix the Republican Party, then you start looking in the future of how to make it better. There's not enough blacks in the Republican Party, but there's a lot of conservative blacks. There's not enough Hispanics in the Republican Party in South Carolina, but there are a large number of conservative Hispanics. Same thing is true with Asians. There are a lot of conservative Asians. The party needs to be more conservative, needs more conservative color in it. Inclusive. And it's not a matter of trying to change the philosophy of the party. The creed is the creed. But there are people of all colors in America that stand by that same creed. So let's get them in the party and get them involved. We're not doing that right now. I think that's some ideas of how you can make the party better.
That's a good idea. So in conclusion, what would you like people to know about you that would convince them to vote for you on May 15th?
I'm a man of the people. I grew up with maybe a higher low class or low middle class. I've had success in my career, but I never cared about money. Even though I made enough. Enough's enough. I've been around people of wealth that I've represented, some of the richest people in the United States. I'm not a guy that likes a lot of rich people. I think they look down on other people. What you can know about me is that I'm honest. I love God. I unashamedly tell you that I follow Jesus Christ. And if you follow Jesus Christ, you don't lie, cheat, or steal. You can take one word to the bank when I tell you something. If I make a mistake, because we're all imperfect, I'll be the first to own up to it and try to learn from it. What I'd like for people to know about me is that I'm a man that loves God and loves America. I love freedom. When they unpack me one day, they're going to find a tattoo on my spine that God put on there. So, well, made in the USA. I love this country. And because I love this country so much, and I love God so much, I love the people. I want to help the people build a better life. I've had a good life. I want the generations after me, my children, my grandchildren, your grandchildren, your grandchildren's children. I want them to have a better life because I think America is unlimited in its potential. This is a great place to live. Best place in the world. But we got to fix America too.